Alors, on est avec Mark Spencer de Ripple Training qui nous présente encore un nouveau produit cette année. On était avec lui l'année passée. So, Mark, we were with you last year for callouts at the time, which was a pretty revolutionary product for Final Cut Pro 10 that came out that helped us illustrate a little more some ideas in Final Cut Pro very easily. And now you also, along the year, you came out with this other product that you're calling Optics, which allows us to create all those effects like lens and binoculars.
And
yes,
like
exactly.
That, right?
And then you came out with Ripple tools.
Yes.
It's been a very active year for you this year, yes?
It has, and in fact, I mean, also with all of our training, we've been updating all our training for the latest version of Final Cut Pro 10 in Motions. There's been a ton of training, there's been a ton of client work, and then the plugin we introduced last year with callouts went over really well, so we want to kind of build on that, but also come out with things that are unique and not just, you know, something that's generic, but something that is very useful for a very specific way, and that we felt like callouts and optics and Ripple tools all kind of meet that criteria.
Oh, absolutely. And then you come out today at the Super Meet with a new product that you call Timelines. What is it about?
Sure, so Ripple Timelines, like you say, is a brand new product. We're actually releasing it next week, but announcing it here at NAB. And what it is, it's a set of transitions, but not transitions like you normally think about. It's really animated timelines.
So you're not talking about star wipes here?
No star wipes, no circle wipes, no page wipes, none of that. No, very, very different. It's actually an animated timeline. So anytime you have any kind of project where you want to show going from one step to another, from one time to another, you bring up one of these timelines and customize it to meet your needs.
Okay, so that would be like for some time-related storytelling, like, okay.
Sure, like a documentary that you're going through a biography, for instance, you want to go from one year to the next, and you want to pull from one video clip to the next. Instead of just cutting, you pull out and reveal a timeline that shows and gives the viewer a sense of where all these things are in time. Or a process. It doesn't have to be time, it could highlight a whole process, and you're going through each step of the process.
Okay, so Mark, we're now with your, and we have to say it, we're your MacBook Pro hooked to a 27-inch Apple Cinema display. And then let's see how it rocks and if it can play.
Yeah, actually, this MacBook Pro Retina display it's great. It's been a life changer, this machine. So I am hooked up to this other display, and so Ripple Timelines are implemented as a transition. But again, I don't really think of them as a normal transition. But they live in the transitions browser in Final Cut Pro 10. Here we are, Ripple Timelines, actually distributed through FX Factory. So if you have FX Factory, you'll actually find this available to you, immediately, that you can try it out. There's a trial version. So there's 8 kind of templates for these timelines, but each one can be modified dramatically in terms of how it looks and how it animates. So for example, I'll take this one called Sequence, and I'll drag it on between these 2 clips. So I've got a clip here of this young woman graduating, and then later in time we have her being a doctor. So it's a change in time, or a change in place, it doesn't really matter. So if I play through it, I'm not going to render anything, but just so you get a sense of what it looks like. Okay.
Wow, so it's not even rendered and it almost plays like full frame rate.
Yeah, and if it's not hooked up to the display, generally you can play it pretty much full frame rate. Now the cool thing is, I'm going to move the playhead somewhere we're kind of zoomed out a little bit here. If I select the transition, in the inspector I've got a couple options. First of all, there's some quick tips you can turn on that are little helpful hints. So you don't need to go to a website or open some other document. Right here you've got some quick hints on how to take advantage of these, because they're fairly, although they're easy to throw on and you can use them as is, they can be fairly complex and you can do a lot with them. The next thing is, instead of looking at the camera, right now we're seeing the camera animate, kind of back out, you can go to this thing called director view, which is like you're the director, so you're going to step back and look at the whole thing. And when you're in director view, we have some guides to help you line things up, and we have some on-screen controls that allow you to change where each of these things exist. So you can completely change the order of each of these things and turn ones off you want or don't want. You don't have to look at them all. If there's any that you don't want, you can scroll down and say, hey, drop zone 1 I don't need, so I'm just going to turn that whole one off, and I'll move this other one over. And you can move over the separators between the years. You can change, these don't have to be years, they could be any text that you want. And not only any text, I mean, you can move these anywhere, format them any way you want, any color that you want. They can be moved anywhere you want, so it's extremely flexible. And then you can change the text inside of any of these areas here too, including getting rid of the text if you don't want any text. So very easy to go in and modify the layout. And no matter where you put, the cool thing about this is no matter where you put these things, I'll move this one over here, you'll always go from transition A to transition B. And that's what these labels are for, to identify these. Now these other ones are drop zones. So that means you could scroll down. I'll go down to this drop zone 2 here, and I'll click on the little well, and I can add a clip to that drop zone. So you can fill all these guys with any material. So usually you'll have a process with maybe it's a 5-step process or whatever, and then you fill it out, and then you would add the transition multiple times as you go from kind of one year to the next to the next. So once you're done sort of modifying it, and by the way, this background can be a drop zone. You can change the colors of just about anything you want. The outline of these things, you can change the color. These stems, you can change the color. It's fully customizable. The gradient of the bar, this background gradient that right now is kind of a white to gray, could be really any color. I'll do something quick and dirty. Well, that's not beautiful, but you can change it to anything you want, including that background. Instead of a gradient, you could be a drop zone. So you could put some content of your own in the background. So super, super flexible. Let's go back to a gradient here. Once you're done modifying it and customizing it the ways you want, if you go back to the camera view, you can play it and look at it as customized kind of transition.
Awesome.
And then just one more thing here is, usually after you've seen a timeline for the first time, you might not want to zoom all the way out again because you've established kind of all the different phases. So the framing, each one of these has different options for how the camera animates. So instead of a wide framing, I could have a medium framing, or even a close framing. So in this case now, the camera will come out and just move right over into here, okay? Awesome. And then just to take it a step further, you can adjust that framing by these little offset controls. So I can say, well, after the camera pulls out, I want it to come right over and look at this guy. So I'll move it over and I'll move it down. And now when I play the transition, instead of going and pulling out wide, it pulls out tighter but goes right over to the next thing that I want to talk about and zooms into there. Okay, so just a lot of flexibility in customizing its look, the content, and how the camera animates.
That's absolutely awesome. And did you come up with a retail price yet for that?
Yeah, so this is going to be $59. There'll likely be a sale price when it's released next week for a short amount of time, just to introduce it to people. But we're looking at $59, which for that you get all 8 of these. Use them how you want.
Awesome. So rippletraining.com and FX Factory.
Yeah, you'll be able to find it on the Noise Industries site, FX Factory, but definitely rippletraining.com. If you subscribe to us, our Twitter @rippletraining, you'll be notified when it comes out.
Mark, it's absolutely amazing. I can't wait to try the product myself and see how it works out, because I have a few trips I have made that I would really like to put into a time perspective. And also I can see that I have a lot of customers asking for me to make a retrospective of what happened in the company in the last 20 years, and I can see thousands of opportunities to use that. So thank you very, very much for this interview and for these great products that you're creating for us that needs them every day.
Well, thanks, Eric. It's great to talk to you. Great to see you again.